Hello, my name is Mitchell Kirk. Tonight we have set aside time to meet and get to know the candidates who are running for the NineStar Connect Board of Directors. I will be your host for this evening's program. Each candidate will be asked the same questions, and how they answer will help you, our members, make an informed decision on who you vote for this March. Without any further delay, let's get started. Joining us first will be the candidates running for a seat in District 4. And starting closest to me are Larry Longman, Scott Pittman, and Mark Roberson. Larry, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mitch. So first I'd like to thank the nominating committee for asking me or approving me to run for this position today. I am a lifelong resident of Central Indiana. I grew up on the northeast side of Indianapolis, attended Lawrence Central High School, and further went to Purdue University in West Lafayette and received a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. I moved to McCordsville in 2002 in District 4 and have been a cooperative member for 21 years. My wife, Jennifer, is the Director of Investments for Wesleyan Investment Foundation, but a lot of people around town know her better from her prior position as a middle school science teacher at Mount Vernon Middle School. I have two daughters, both graduated through the Mount Vernon Community School Corporation, and they're now attending college here in the state of Indiana. We are, for the past 6 months, we've been attending Real Life Church, but prior to that, not unlike Scott, attended Harvest Church near the Mount Comfort Regional Airport, and you would see me potentially holding the door open as you're coming in or leading a small group there at Harvest Church. We were there for 9 years. I myself am work in a national portfolio of real estate and construction projects. I'm the director of pre-construction for Victory Unlimited Construction, which is based in Fishers, Indiana. I've got 30 years experience in this field, and for the past 7 years or so, I've wanted to be a part of this board. And since 2012, though, I was serving on the McCordsville Town Council, and the duties conflict with one another, and really didn't have the ability to serve both boards, and just came off the Town Council at the end of 2023, and so now is the time. And, unfortunately, there's 3 of us that are vying for this position, and there has to be an election, and I wish us all the best of luck, but now's the time for me, and I hope that you would vote for me in this for the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Larry. Scott, we'll move on to you. Tell us a little about yourself and why you're running for the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mitchell. So I have been on the Board of Directors for NineStar Connect since 2021, having been elected to take the seat of Daryl Thomas, who is a long-serving board member here. I'm married, have 4 children, and together we make our home in McCordsville. Our 3 daughters and 1 son. They range in age from 8 to 18. We love the area, we love the community, we love being a part of Hancock County. As the youngest member of the board, I believe that I brought a unique perspective to the boardroom and to our conversations that we've had, and that I've helped to add value. NineStar Connect is a highly successful member-owned cooperative, and it's been a privilege to serve. In District 4, I'm a passionate and engaged board member, and I believe, as a board, we are committed to meeting the needs of our members.
Thank you, Scott. Mark, we'll move on to you. Tell us a little about yourself and why you're running for the Board of Directors.
All right, thank you. I'm a lifelong Indiana resident. Grew up in Seymour, Indiana, Ball State, graduated there, met my wife there. We've been married now 40 years, so a lot of good things there. I have 2 sons, both married, have their own families now, so we've got 3 grandchildren, and 1 on the way, should arrive in June. We previously lived just about 5 miles east. We're currently in McCordsville, and we're part of Fishers community, and we've seen a lot of growth in this northeast corridor of Indianapolis. So the real reason I'm running is I feel like everyone needs to give a little bit back to their community in some shape or form, and I think this would be a good opportunity. If you think of NineStar, it's focused on Hancock County, and it does a good job of providing a needed service.
Thank you, Mark. All right, moving on to question number 2, and we'll return to Larry. What qualifications or experience do you have that you feel would be advantageous to NineStar?
Well, I think what I offer is, both leadership through serving the town of McCordsville, church, hobbies, time, talent, and treasure I put into organizations that I believe in. As Scott said, NineStar is a solid cooperative composed of many members that contribute. It's a community more so than a company that's based on profits. And I don't think anyone could really dispute the rapid growth that's occurred in McCordsville. Actually, I think probably since the point in time that I had moved there, I don't think Mark and Scott's neighborhoods even existed. When I first moved in, that's how much growth we've had. And it's hard to say. When you're a director, when you're a town council member, similar roles, you're going to have a lot of decisions that come in front of you. You always want it to be the best one that it could ever be, but not to mention that the decisions that you make in a boardroom have long-standing impacts for what you enact today is going to have ramifications down the road, many years down the road. So I recognize the importance of planning, financing, budgeting while at the town of McCordsville as a member of the Sewer Utility Board. I know that NineStar is really in the infancy of capturing the water and sewer pieces. I think that's some valuable technical aspects that I can bring to the board, as well as leadership planning for capital improvements. While I was with the town of McCordsville, there were 2 sewer plant expansions and leading us to the current capacity of 1 million gallons. And I know that NineStar is considering, or actually will make improvements to the lateral mains that run down 200. Similar needs, trying to get the sewer capacities up. I think that's something from a technical point of view that I could help from participating on board decisions.
Thank you, Larry. Scott, moving on to you. What qualifications or experience do you have that you feel would be advantageous to NineStar?
Absolutely. So when I first joined the board, one of the first things that was told to me by fellow board members was it's going to take your first 3 years to really get up to speed and learn the nuances of really the 4 different utilities that we're a part of. And so I've dove in head first. This first 3 years have really learned the business and understand kind of from a high level what it means to lead NineStar strategically. Educationally, I have earned master's degrees in nonprofit leadership as well as an MBA. And professionally, I've spent my career in developing people and organizations. That includes in higher education, being involved as an entrepreneur, and also in serving both not-for-profit and for-profit organizations. One of my areas of strength is really in strategic planning, and that's one of the things that really gets us excited as a board. This past year, we spent a good portion of the year really focusing and honing in on a new strategic plan, which we just approved this past fall. So we're really excited to see that come to fruition and to see that continue to be carried out here in the next coming years.
Thank you, Scott. Mark, we'll move on to you now. Same question. What qualifications or experience do you have that you feel would be advantageous to the utility?
Yeah, I've had over 40 years now of what I'll call accounting/tax experience. The last 31 years I've been at Simon Property Group, where I serve as the Vice President of REIT Tax Compliance. So I'm dealing with something that's very technical. And I think just what you've alluded to is there's going to be a learning curve here, and I've always enjoyed delving into something that's a little bit new and learning all the technicalities, regulations, so on and so forth.
Excited by challenges. Very cool. All right, next question. We'll return to Larry. In 10 years, what do you think the cooperative will look like?
Sure. Well, I would say as a cooperative member, we have 2 primary concerns usually, and that's cost and reliability. So part of the rampant development on the west side of the county and what we'll see here in the near future on the 200 west corridor around 70 is going to require infrastructure investments, new lines, new rights of way, lots of investment that are going to be part of the strategic plan, that Scott referred to. There's going to be investments put in where returns have to be made to cover those costs. So I think that's going to be a substantial part of what the board needs to look at, what utility services need to be upgraded, what need to be added to support the growth that's going on in the county. I think another thing that could happen is, legislative changes. As those occur, things happen to the utility that the utility has to react to. In my experience, a utility plan typically has a 30 to 40 year time horizon for return on investment. And with the federal level changes that are occurring in the leadership, president level, parties changing, there's constant legislation that impacts those investments that you're expecting to have 30 to 40 year returns on are now becoming, useful life might be a 4-year term. So I think there's those challenges that the board will have to look at. And lastly, a lot of the alternative energy sources that are becoming more prevalent, some of the behind the net metering stuff, the solar panels that are going to be continued to added to people's homes. Net metering is going to play into that and how that contributes to the grid and how it takes away from returns on investment.
Thank you, Larry. Scott, what about yourself in 10 years? What do you think the cooperative will look like?
Yeah, I see us as a hub for fiber internet services across central Indiana through innovative partnerships and opportunities to grow our footprint. I see us occupying our new space in McCord Square in the heart of McCordsville. And engaging members really across all of our territories in ways that strengthen our respective communities. I see a financially sound cooperative that is positioned to evolve with the rapidly changing technologies that are out there, that's positioned to be able to take advantage of those technologies and invest in infrastructure to be able to make those technologies a reality for our members. So doing so in a way that provides the best quality service as well as cost-effective services for our members.
Thank you, Scott. Mark, we'll move on to you. In 10 years, what do you think the cooperative will look like?
Well, it's going to grow. I don't think anyone can drive on the east side of the county here or west side of the county and say that it's not going to grow. It's going to grow, and you have a lot of moving parts in terms of you have neighborhoods. You're going to have additional schools probably being built. Obviously, there's a lot of warehousing going on, and when you look at that in total, you need to be able to serve those various constituencies, and therefore, I think it's going to be a challenge at times, obviously, but also a time for steady growth and making sure those utilities are coming through.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Returning to Larry, what advantages do you see NineStar having as a co-op versus an investor-owned utility?
Sure. Well, I think probably the first response to that would be just a quote right from the NineStar website that says we're a different utility. As a cooperative, we're service-driven, not profit-driven. That's why we make decisions we can take pride in, whether we're in the boardroom or on the front porch. I think that's very powerful. The decisions that are made, that Scott's been part of to date, they aren't necessarily whether or not a return can be made on an investment for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. It might be this is the right thing to do to get power down to this area of the county that we've never been able to. It's probably not a reality, but water and sewer or fiber for that matter, which fiber has probably been the most prevalent deficiency in some of the more rural areas that are in the service territories. So those investments are made not based upon returns, but on service to members. And I think that's probably the truest form of what it means to be a co-op as opposed to an investor-owned utility. An investor-owned utility would not make infrastructure investments that it doesn't earn a return on.
Scott, what are your thoughts on this? What advantages do you see NineStar having
Sure.
as a co-op versus
Yeah,
investor?
I'm going to piggyback off of what Larry just shared. Really, as a cooperative, we serve a mission that's bigger than our bottom line, and that's the biggest foundational difference between a cooperative and an investor-owned utility. And so we can make strategic decisions that benefit members that for-profit utilities simply cannot make. Our CEO, Michael Burrow, he likes to talk about it as serving the little old lady at the end of the line. And so as a cooperative over the past many years and decades, we have strung electricity and we put in utility poles to people where investor-owned utilities would never serve. They would never go. And that's because they need to generate a profit off of that. By our nature, by our DNA, we're different. The second part, I would say, and it really goes right alongside with that, is we're not by design, we're not meant to generate a profit. What that means is that at the end of the day, we return any excess revenue or margin or operating profits back to our members. So this year alone, we returned over $2 million back to our members, directly to our members' pockets. And in the past 12 years, that's been over $12.5 million. So able to contribute directly back to our members as the margin allows.
Lots of advantages there. Thank you. Mark, what about yourself? What advantages do you see NineStar having as a co-op versus investor-owned?
I think one of the chief advantages is when you invest in a public utility, investors are going to want a return. And whether that's through dividends, stock buybacks, growth, et cetera, they want that. NineStar doesn't have to think about that. They don't have to put that into the analysis. They can analyze on how do we best serve our members. And that, I think, is the advantage. You don't have that having earnings calls and things of that nature. So I think that's why co-op has a distinct advantage.
Thank you, Mark. All right, arriving at our final question, what is something you feel NineStar does well in the community? And as always, we'll start with Larry.
Sure. I'm going to go back to the NineStar website. Some great quotes there, but it says, just as a rising tide lifts all ships, our success as a company depends on operating in strong communities. That goes a little further than that, but I think that hits at home with what NineStar really is about. It's community. Investments are made to serve the people that are part of the membership. I think some of the programs that are currently spearheaded by NineStar are very important as well, like the Roundup Initiative. The Community Days of Service are very valuable, serving on other 501c3 organizations that may not be able to put together a $5,000 landscape project or something. That is pretty valuable when you get a crew of NineStar employees coming out to take care of that on a day of service for you. I think that's very important, and again, service to the community. Scholarships to area seniors. I was fortunate enough to have one daughter that did get to receive one of those, so that's nice, and that's again another benefit of being a member of the co-op. I think some of the utility payment assistant programs and customer appreciation day also go a long way with those who need the help. And then lastly, there's a lot to be said about 24/7, 365 availability, and as Scott mentioned, the McCord Square building, as it comes online, becomes another source, I think, for that type of a service provider. Not to mention the availability around the clock, but also how NineStar is available. I think it used to be, before the technology became so prevalent, that you made a phone call to NineStar, but that doesn't exist anymore. People want to chat, they want to text. They actually may not want to speak. They just want to communicate in one way or the other. So I think those are valuable initiatives that NineStar does do well in the community.
Thank you, Larry. What about you, Scott? What is something you feel NineStar does well in the community?
Yeah, this is my favorite question because really I think it comes down to it simply acts as a cooperative. Larry mentioned the community service days that are held every year to improve communities and to work on projects that contribute directly back to our local communities. Through Operation Roundup, we contribute to local charities, charitable causes. We hold member engagement events like we did this past fall at Piney Acres, where we had about 2,000 of our members that came out and were a part of that day. And overall, in general, we act in ways that benefit our communities, that improve our quality of life and place, and that's what makes being a member of NineStar special.
Thank you, Scott. And last but not least, Mark, what about yourself? What's something you feel NineStar does well in the community?
Well, you see various ads on television from time to time, so they're talking about the service that they provide, but also saying, hey, we're a member of this community. And I think they've done a very good job of that. I just want to say, I went to the Piney Acres in the fall, and I thought that was a pretty neat thing. It was a good crowd, and I really appreciate that. It was a good time. My wife and I spent 2 to 3 hours there. So I think little things like that, they go a long way.
Well, thank you. Thank all three of you for speaking with me and helping the voters make this important decision. Next up, we will be speaking with candidates who are running unopposed in this year's election. Please welcome, starting closest to me, Timothy Bryant, at-large B position, Jan Cochard from District 5, and Robin Ritchie from District 3. I'm going to start by asking Timothy, if you could tell us a little about yourself and why you are running for the Board of Directors.
Sure. My name is Tim Bryant, and yes, as you said, I'm running for open at-large position. I've been an East Sider my whole life. My wife and I grew up on the east side of Indy, going to Lawrence Central. We met there. We both went to Purdue, got married there, settled down in the east side. We've been part of Hancock County for over 30 years, living here. We raised 3 children through the New Pal schools, and 2 of them are local. Their families are local. And we have 6 grandkids that we're quite enjoying. My background at Purdue was engineering, computer engineering, and I have an MBA from Indiana Wesleyan. I've spent about 25 years in what I would call senior management positions, and the last 8 as president of a software company, a nationwide software company, and finally then the last 3 years as an incumbent with the NineStar board.
Thank you, Tim. Moving on to Jan, tell us a little about yourself and why you're running for the Board of Directors.
My name's Jan Cochard. I've lived almost my entire life here in Hancock County. I was a county extension agent for a couple of years in Sullivan County. But I've been married for 45 years. I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and I love kids, love working with kids. And I've been a volunteer 4-H leader since 1975, teaching dog obedience. And then later, more recently, I've been involved with the entomology program. But I went to Purdue also, and so did my wife. And my wife actually has a degree from Purdue and IU, but I have 2 degrees out of Purdue. One is in communications and the other is in therapeutic recreation. I've been a part of NineStar, or it was Central Indiana Power originally, and I was on the nominating committee with them and a part of the advisory board that they used to have, part of it for about 10 years. But the reason I'm running, I have wanted, since I was on the advisory board, to take part in the co-op. I really believe in the co-op philosophy. I think I can contribute to the co-op, and I just love the way they are innovative and have committed to our community here locally.
Thank you. Robin, what about yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the Board of Directors?
Well, my name is Robin Ritchie, and I currently live in Henry County, and I represent District 3 for the co-op here. And I've enjoyed myself tremendously in the last 3 years being on the board. I like working with the group. I like working with people. I like serving the community, and that's the big part of my wanting to run, is being part of the community and helping make decisions to make people's lives better.
Thank you, Robin. Returning to Tim, what qualifications or experience do you have that you feel would be advantageous to NineStar?
Sure. I touched on my background, my education, and a little bit on my experience with, with management. But I think, certainly bringing a technical background and a business background. But I think another thing that I noticed in some of my experience in the past has been working with the board. I've worked with the board, several of them. In my current role as the president of the software company, I report to a board. And I have seen some that function pretty well and some that don't function very well. And so when the opportunity with NineStar came up, I realized there was an opportunity for me to really give some of my talents back to them and to see what I could provide. I mentioned the board experience because even prior to me being on the board, NineStar has always had an outstanding board representation, and I want to make sure that continues. Their involvement with the community is outstanding, and I thought, well, I know how a good board functions, but I also know sometimes where a board doesn't function so well. So I really wanted to be able to participate in that and continue to see that NineStar is a stellar business within the community.
Jan, moving on to you, what qualifications or experience do you have that you feel would be advantageous to NineStar?
Well, I've had a lot of experience in business. I spent 18 years in the farm equipment business as part of it as an owner, and most of it as a manager of 2 different stores, and loved to work with people. Always had a good relationship with my clientele that we had it there. And then I was also spent 15 years working for a parts distributor as the territory manager. Had 12 salesmen working for me in 4 states, and so I feel like I'm confident that I have the ability to work with other people. I've never had the experience of working with the board so much, with the exception of I was on the County Cooperative Extension Board and was president of that and organized the Farm Festival tour. And but we had I was on that board for probably 5 years, and was on the Greenfield Chamber of Commerce board for several years and was president of that. But all that's been great working with the local people, and I really loved working with everybody. That's about the extent of my experiences outside of being a dairy farmer for a little while.
That counts too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jan. Robin, what about yourself? What qualifications or experience do you have that you feel would be advantageous to NineStar?
Well, I have a business degree from Indiana University, and I also have a master's in library science, also from Indiana University. I completed the Hancock Leadership course a few years ago.
Good.
And when I had worked at AT&T/Lucent and the Courier Journal, we were part of the telecommunications division. So I had to work with the different teams, my team and the customers' team, to come up with solutions for their telecommunications and things like that. So I do like working with teams, and I think, working with those people that I grew to understand their needs and what their needs were and how to implement those. And that's something that we do on the board as well, implementing the needs and making decisions that impact the members.
Thank you, Robin. Moving on and returning to Tim, in 10 years, what do you think the cooperative will look like?
Yeah, I would probably phrase it as the same and much more. So NineStar is always poised to be present in the community. They're involved with economic development. That they have a presence with the local schools and businesses. And some of it we can predict what's going to happen in 10 years, but some of it we can't. So having that presence there, I think, is key. The growth, we may anticipate, additional water needs and, certainly businesses growing, communities and things like that, but there's a lot of areas where we can't quite predict. Is that more in the terms of broadband? Is it more water or wastewater? But I think one of the things that NineStar and the senior leadership team has been able to do is stay poised with the technology. And they're always looking at, is it EVs? Is that the next market? Is it solar, whether that's fields or residential? And so they're always looking, and the board is always trying to look to say, how do we clue into the economic development and the growth within the community, anticipate, get there before the need is there. And so while I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen in 10 years, some of the technology we may not be aware of, I think NineStar will be there. They're always anticipating, they always have an ear to the ground, they're always involved with the growth, and I think they're uniquely poised to be able to continue to do that.
Thank you. What about yourself, Jan? Looking to the future, in 10 years, what do you think the cooperative will look like?
Okay, well, right now I'm an outsider looking in, but from what I see, that footprint of NineStar is definitely going to grow. And there's a two-edged sword there. With the larger footprint, you're going to have more infrastructure. That's more expense. But with the larger footprint, you also have more members, and that can help offset, or that should offset the additional expense and help control the expenses. The technology out there is just, who knows where technology is going to go tomorrow. It's so vast of a subject, and I've always been impressed with the guys I call when I've got a technology problem at home. They've got the answer, and they're right up on top of it, and I see their value increasing and helping more people in the community.
Thank you, Jim. What about you, Robin? In 10 years, what do you think the cooperative will look like?
Well, NineStar is very unique even in the cooperative world because we offer 4 different utilities. We're a very progressive company. I think that we will continue to be progressive, with the leadership team at NineStar and the board of directors. So I know that there will be a lot of growth in water and wastewater. We're focusing on that. Also broadband. But I just think that because of the past, NineStar will continue to be progressive and move forward. And I think that we'll be able to meet any challenges that presented to us.
Trends will continue. Absolutely. Thank you. Coming back to Tim here, what advantages do you see NineStar having as a co-op versus an investor-owned utility?
Yeah, so I think the advantage is in the name. We are a co-op. NineStar practices the 7 cooperative principles. The members are the stakeholders, and every decision that the board or the senior leadership team makes or considers is determined by how that affects not just one member, many members, but all the members up and down along the line. So that's something that investor-owned utilities, they're looking at quarterly profit and returns and things like that. But when NineStar is looking at investments, it may be 50 years for a water tower. How do we return capital credits to, again, back to the stakeholders who are the members, who are the owners of that. So I think that's the biggest difference between the two.
Thank you. Jan, yourself, what advantages do you see NineStar having as a co-op versus investor-owned?
Well, investor-owned, they're investors. They're looking for a return on their money and a profit. NineStar, to me, is out there to take care of the membership. The memberships, they're the owners of the company. And they're I shouldn't say we're non-for-profit. We are non-for-profit. but we have to have a certain amount of income to be able to afford building all the infrastructure and that. But where NineStar looks to the membership and to take care of the membership, they're not so concerned about the profit and the return on investments that the investor companies or utilities are. NineStar is concerned with or is involved in the residential area, but they're also look to take care of the rural people, members, and want to see them taken care of. And when an investor owned, if they're in enough density, they don't worry about them. They aren't going to go there.
Makes sense. Robin, what would you say advantages as far as NineStar being a co-op versus that investor-owned?
As a business model, I think a co-op is far superior than an investor-owned. The co-op looks after its members, it looks after its community, and that's very important to me. Whereas an investor, they're mostly concerned with their shareholders and the profits that they can return to them. So to me, co-op is the way to go.
All right, moving on to our final question. And coming back to Tim, what is something you feel NineStar does well in the community?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I have seen is presence. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but when you think of things like Community Day, the scholarship programs that they offer, Customer Appreciation Day, Operation Roundup, supporting growth, the hospitals, the communities, the businesses, the schools, always having that ear to the ground and being aware of what's out there, how they can participate, how they can be an advocate for the growth and that type of thing. So, just having that presence and awareness.
That finger on the pulse of
Yep.
the community.
Absolutely.
Very cool. What about you, Jen? What do you think something NineStar does well?
Well, as the outsider looking in at the board, I was going to make it real simple. They keep the power on. They do such an excellent job compared to my neighbors that are on a investor-owned utility that we have electricity all the time. We don't have the breakdowns. And NineStar has done a really good job of looking into the future and checking the lines and making sure that they're going to hold up. And I've really been impressed with that as a member of the co-op. And I've been a member for 37 years or more. But I really appreciate some of their core values. They're committed to the community, and Tim's related some of the activities that they've been active in the schools and supporting them. And then the other thing I really like about it is that they're innovative. They were the first co-op in the country to have a combination of communications and electric together under one umbrella. And that was a few years ago, but they continue to do things like that. I love that.
Those innovative disruptors, very cool. Last but not least, Robin, what is something you feel NineStar does well in the community?
Well, they do a lot of things well, but my two favorites are the Roundup, Operation Roundup, where they take just a few cents of your monthly bill and make fund, and then they disperse that to charitable organizations in the community, and then those communities give back to the community. So we're kind of giving back twice. And the other one is the Community Day, where there are projects and the the employees are able to participate in projects that they've chosen for the community. So the employees personally can give back to the community, and I like that as well.
Thank you, Robin. Thank all of you for speaking with me, and thank all of you for watching as you prepare to make these important votes.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
I'd like to thank our candidates for their time this evening, as well as their willingness to run for the board. I'd also like to thank you, the viewers, who have taken the time to watch this program. It is so important to be engaged with your cooperative and vote for directors. It is one of the most important and vital aspects to being a member. A reminder that voting for candidates begins March 1st and runs through March 20th. All voting is conducted online or by coming into one of our offices. By voting, you are eligible for a $10 bill credit or can attend the annual meeting on March 22nd at Greenfield Central High School. If you have any questions, please visit our website and look for additional information by clicking the annual meeting page. Thanks again, and we hope to hear from you in March.